Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm making this video because I had a lot of people recently asking me about which boards they should buy, what do they do, what is the difference, where should I start. So I decided to pull all of my stuff out of my various boxes to kind of go over the most used accessories that I have, that I use on a somewhat regular basis, or and as well as some things that I really don't even use all that often, but I like to have around for just in case. So I've gone through all my stuff, and this is what I deem to be the most important to me. So let's get into it. People usually ask me about what they, well, people are usually interested in getting a dev board. That's usually the first thing that people look to get after they buy their flipper. You know, they want to be able to use the Wi-Fi capabilities, run Marauder, Evil Portal, because everyone's always pretty hyped up on that when they buy their flipper. So when I first got my flipper, the very first thing that I purchased was because I couldn't get a hold of the dev boards. They were completely sold out, and for how much they were versus what you could buy them in other places, it just didn't make sense to me. So anyways, AWOC makes a lot of really awesome boards, a bunch of different kinds, but what I was really interested in was this duo board that he makes. I don't know if he still makes version 1 anymore. This one says version 1. I don't know if there's a version 2 out, but this was a fantastic purchase in my opinion. It comes with an ESP32 inside, as well as an NRF24 for mouse jacking, and that really helped get me into the whole flipper hobby. Allowed me to do some maraudering, and later on some Evil Portal. It has the built-in SD card, and I'm judging by how perfectly this was 3D printed that he must have a bamboo printer, because this is absolutely beautiful, and the just the clearances on this for like the SD card and stuff are just absolutely impeccable. But enough about this awesome board. Let's go on to the next, which next thing I purchased, because in the beginning I really didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't realize that I was buying a repeat of the same thing. Now this board is by SpeakSoCon. I'm gonna go with SpeakSoCon. Okay, so this has both an ESP01, which is a lot like an ESP32 slot, and then it also has the NRF24 slot for mouse jacking. But I haven't actually added the female headers to that, and that's fine. What this thing is really great for is, well, first of all, it can do the mouse jacking attacks just like the AWOC board can, because it has the NRF24 built into it. But then what I keep this guy around for is I have two different chips here. One for the Wi-Fi scanner, which is kind of an older program, which isn't too popular anymore because the scanner's built into Marauder now. But then I also have another ESP01 that's just strictly for deauthing, deauthorized attacks. So yeah, I can take out either one of these guys, stick it in here, okay, and I'm good to go. So that's another one of my favorite and very useful boards. Okay. Next is let's go over this guy. This was my first attempt at making like a homemade Mayhem board, which I'll go over next. But this is just an ESP32 cam. you know, if you can see in here, I just soldered the wires to where they needed to go so I could plug it straight into the flipper. I just made a little hat out of some PCB board that I cut and then soldered. It's a prototyping board, and then soldered the connections where they needed to go per the diagram in, I believe I got it from Uber Guido's GitHub on how to wire everything up. So yeah, now this worked pretty good. It didn't work perfectly though. There's some things on the Mayhem board, like this capacitor right here, which is not present on my homemade version. So this didn't work quite as well as the official board, but it did work just fine for doing the Marauder and Evil Portal attacks. So, you know, if that's really your main intention and you only have about, you know, $5 or $6 to spend, then this is a very good option. And then I also got a 30-cent antenna and hooked that up to this here, and this thing gets really great reception. All right, and now moving on to the Big Daddy from Cincinnati, we got the Mayhem board in all of its glory and a glow-in-the-dark case that I specially printed for it. But one of the really cool things that I like about the Mayhem board, at least version 1.4, is that it has all these pins right here for testing. Okay, so or you can even just go straight off the top too. That's another really cool thing about it's. Not only is it reversible, so you can flip it in from either side because of the way that these pins are here, but you can also use these pins for testing. So rather than you know, plugging it into your flipper, you can have this thing plugged into your flipper like so, and still be able to attach things to the GPI ports through this, even though it's working. Same thing within here. Like for this, I can hook up a little temperature sensor, stick that in there, boot up the program, and it'll be able to read temperatures if I actually was able to get that in there properly. But anyways, you get the point. So yeah, that's it for the ESP devices like the AWOC board, the Mayhem board, which all run some version of an ESP32. I prefer the ESP32 cams because, well, they have a built-in SD card slot, which a lot of the other ESP32s do not. And the fact that it has a camera is kind of cool. I mean, the camera isn't great by any means. It's pretty similar to like a Game Boy camera in quality. But you know what? It's pretty nice. And it also doubles as like a motion detector. There's an app built into it for sending SOS signals. There's a nanny cam, which I've never really been able to have much success with, but yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. There's also a newer version of this Mayhem board that recently came out. I've been meaning to put this together for some time now, but it's got a slightly different layout. Instead of it having the testing area down here below, it just has another plug-in, so you can plug in a, you know, like a NRF24 for mouse jacking, while also having the C1101 plugged in, which, you know, that's pretty cool. I don't have a ton of use for it, and I kind of prefer having the testing panel here, so I'm still a little slow to switch to the newer one, and I've just been busy and lazy and haven't had the time to put it all together, but that's something that I've been meaning to do as well. Okay, now moving on. Moving into the sub-gigahertz range. Okay, let me remove this. For sub-gigahertz boards, I would recommend probably starting with just something really basic. Instead of going and buying an expensive board, these chips right here, are like $4 or $5 a piece. Okay, they're the eBite C1101 chips. They're super cheap. If you have a Mayhem board, then you can just pull out that slot and stick that guy in there, the C1101. Now these are both C1101s. This one's by Rabbit Labs, and this one's made to work in the 900 megahertz range. And this one is not made by Rabbit Labs. This is just a cheap Chinese knockoff. And this one's made to work in the 433 megahertz range. They will both pick up signals from each other's ranges, but they're tuned to work the best in the ranges that I just mentioned. So now, where was I at? Okay, ESP C1101. ESP, no. Okay, so now for the sub-gigahertz C1101 continued. If you have the Mayhem board and you can plug it into this slot, then great, but let's just say maybe you want to just make one on your own. This one here I purchased on Amazon from Coral, I believe it says. And when I first got it, this case didn't actually close. It turned out that this board, see, this is just, if you, here, let me show this to you guys actually. Pull this off a little bit better here. Okay, as you can tell, this board is identical to this board, correct? Yes? Okay. So all they did is they took this little $3 or $4 board and they soldered it into this little custom made board here that they use for being able to plug it directly into the flipper, right? Which is cool. And then they also created a 3D printed case. So that way it all goes together like so. Now when I got mine, it didn't all fit. I had to pull out my heat gun, solder gun, make it so, because the case wouldn't be able to close because the gap in between here was just way too wide. But after I heated it up, lowered it down, now it all fits together. Works fine, but I kind of kicked myself in the butt for spending $40 on something that now in retrospect I could have made myself for less than 10 bucks. But you know, if you don't have any of the tools, if you don't have the know-how and you're just looking for an external plug and go type deal, I know that these were really popular. A lot of people bought these things, including myself, so you know, no judgment. Going on from there, as far as the C1101 goes, now both of these are cool. You know, the 900 megahertz from Rabbit Labs is pretty powerful when plugged into the Mayhem board or any other external type board, because it's not trying to send the signal out from inside the flipper, right? All sandwiched in by a bunch of other electronic parts, so that signal has a little bit of trouble getting out of here and reaching long distances. That's why using an external antenna became so popular. However, there's been some developments in the scene, and Rabbit Labs has now released an amplified version of the C1101, which increases the power of the sub-gigahertz range on this flipper by, I would say, like 5 times the distance. I can go a couple of city blocks over from my house and still be able to turn on the porch lights using the 433 megahertz radio frequency, which is pretty amazing to me. So if you're really looking to get the most bang for your buck on a C1101, this thing is only about $10 more than this thing, and it has a lot more going for it than this thing does. So if you're searching for the best C1101 add-on, this is it in my opinion. Yeah, so I mean, it'd be cool if you could plug it into these boards, but not really. I don't see the point. And a lot of people ask me, you know, hey, what board should I get that has everything? And well, my answer to that is none of them. None of them have everything. There's just so many different components and accessories for Flipper that you'll never find one board that has everything built into it. It's just not plausible, possible, or feasible. Okay, so now moving on from this guy, let me show you something else that I like. Something that's also very popular in the scene right now are these infrared blasters. Okay, we have the IR blaster, which was the original one made by Rabbit Labs. And then we have the updated Rabbit Labs Masta Blasta, and I have both of them in cases with lenses on them, which help to lengthen the useful working area of these blasters. This one works off of the 5 gigahertz. They both plug in right here onto the top. This one uses both sides of the ports. This one just uses the one side. So depending on what you're doing, one might work better for you in one application than the other. They both work really good in my opinion. The Master Blaster is of course a bit more powerful because it does have more LEDs than the smaller one does, but then again, this one's also a lot easier to carry around and do things with, so it's just, you know, whatever works best in your use case. Okay, now here is another newer, not so talked about one. This is the mag spoof board, or as Astro called it, the flip spoof board. This is actually I believe the first iteration of the flip spoof board. I mean, maybe not his first iteration, but this is what Rabbit Labs mag spoof board was based off of, as far as I understand. I know that Astro and Rabbit Labs are friends. I see him talking all the time on their Discord and stuff, so I believe that he shared his design with Rabbit Labs, and yeah, so they're very, very similar. They both work in the same way. The Rabbit Labs version is white, made to look like a multipass. I think that's what they called it. The official name was the multipass, going off of the Fifth Element movie, if you remember that, if you're old enough to remember that. So yeah, this is absolutely great for emulating credit cards. Okay, in order to use this, you're going to need a credit card reader, though, just like this one here. I ordered this E-Tech Joy off of Amazon. It is a model MSR90, and I've seen on the Discord that some people have trouble with these. I don't. There's a sweet spot in there. Move it back and forth a couple times. Like, this is what I normally do. I get it in here, of course connected to the flipper, but I get it in there, put it right about on the corner like that, and that's usually the sweet spot for me. Just get that corner right over the roller, and then it usually reads just fine. You might need to go back and forth a couple times till you find your sweet spot. I also had some success, if you see the light isn't sticking out of here anymore, because I disassembled this whole thing and removed some of the shielding in there, and once you do that, man, this thing really works really well. So yeah, that's my experience with it. Okay, and then moving on. Oh, this is probably one of my favorite GPIO projects that I made. This is just the flashlight. I took an old flashlight off of one of my dog walking leashes that was broken, and just pulled the LED array out. You know, tried applying power in a couple different places to see what would make it light up. Realized that these pins here on the outside is what gave it power, and then ground was on the inside, and so it was completely reversible, which I thought was just super cool. And so whether I put it in there like that or I put it like that, all I have to do is go into the GPIO selection, select the flashlight, press OK to turn it on, and just like that, easy peasy. This is one of my favorite flashlight accessories I've seen, period, honestly. I really like this one. Okay, anyways, moving on. Something else that you can do, here's my temperature gauge collection. Okay, we've got, this is a HTU 21D/F temperature and humidity sensor, which I think cost me like $10 or something ridiculous. I didn't realize that they made these much cheaper ones, which are only like $1 a piece. And these are super cool because you can just plug them in like this, directly in there. Well, maybe without the silicone on it. But it used to be where I could just plug it in here directly and then go into the app, and then it'll be able to read it. So that's pretty cool. Anything else I've missed? Oh, okay. Another one that I use less often, but I think is still pretty cool, is this distance sensor, the RCWL 1601. It uses sound waves to detect how far away something is. Let's see if I can boot this up real quick and show you. Yeah, see? So this is about, what, 17 centimeters? I don't know. I'm not sure what the measurement is. I guess 0.246 of a meter. I don't know. I'm American, so I have no idea what a meter means. Okay. So then moving on. Let's see what else I got. Okay, something similar to that. This is a Lidar detector. This is used for detecting whether or not someone or something is in the vicinity, if there's any movement in the area. It uses microwaves, I guess, as radar. It's an RCWL 0516. Okay, plug that guy in there the way that it's supposed to be. I can't remember at the moment. Start up the app, and if anything moves, it'll let you know, which is kind of cool. Which is similar to the motion app that's that you can use with this guy here, only it uses the camera instead of radar. Actually, the camera app actually works better in my opinion, because the Lidar only works up to like 7 feet or so, so that isn't, you know, particularly great, but it is something. Okay, now what else do we have? Okay, GPS. This was an expensive little project. Just for this little GPS chip is about $20. But I went ahead and got one. I wired it all in, and I made it so that way when it plugs into the flipper, because this always has to be facing towards the sky in order for it to acquire a signal, I made it so that way I can hold it, you know, down, and this is facing up, yada yada. So and after a while standing outside, it will acquire, you know, 3 to 5 satellites. It'll give you your exact latitude and longitude, and then you can save that information, plug that into a mapping program and tell exactly where you've been. That's pretty cool. And then there's another thing that I have here included as well, because even though it doesn't attach to the flipper or isn't used with the flipper in any way directly, this is just a cheap GPS jammer that I bought from AliExpress for about $5. All you need to do is plug this into any USB, you know, power brick, and it just begins automatically blocking any GPS signal. So if I'm, you know, checking my GPS signal here on this thing, if I'm standing outside and you know, checking my latitude and longitude, and I go ahead and plug this into a power source, then it just drops. It can't find any satellites, and it just completely disconnects. So these things are highly effective, and I like to keep it with my kit because, well, yeah, for obvious reasons. Okay, so that's the GPS. Now, here's a new one that I just made not too long ago. It's been around in the scene for a long time. The files are actually on Uber Guido's GitHub, so you can download the CPL and BOM file and all the Gerber files, so that way you can get a hold of, what is it, JCPCB or something like that, JLPCB company. Send them those files and they'll be able to make you one of these all ready to go. All you'll have to do once you receive it is to just solder the pins in. And what this does is it turns the flipper, oops, putting it in the right way? No, probably not. It turns your flipper into an air mouse. Okay, so you just turn on your, whatchamacallit, your Bluetooth. Just turn on your Bluetooth and then go onto your device, whatever it is. I usually use it on the computer, or you know, when I'm giving presentations mostly for school, and just the computer will look for it, add it via Bluetooth devices, and then you can just point it at the screen and control your mouse from there. Up is the left mouse and down is the right mouse clicker, and then back is back, of course, which I think is like super cool for giving presentations. All right, let's see what's next. I think we've come about to the end. This is this is one of my favorite projects that I did. This is, if you haven't already guessed, a radiation detector. This is a Geiger counter. So to use this, I'd head into GPIO, scroll on down to the nuclear symbol, and there we have it. I have a feeling this will come in real handy with everything that's going on in Israel right now. Thank God I don't live very close to there. All right, so, oh, one last thing. Let me unplug this guy. Okay, this here is a Fresnel Lens, okay? These are really great when playing with infrared because it literally makes things disappear, okay? Like, here we go. Here's the, you see the blue mat, correct? Okay, now I put that right underneath of it. And other than this part right here, but for all of this, it has disappeared. Right, isn't that pretty cool? So you can play around with these things. Optics is just fascinating to me. So if you get a chance to buy some of these Fresnel lenses, they're made specifically for a do-it-yourself cell phone projector is like one of the best ways to search for it. So if you're looking for some Fresnel glass like that, that is the way to search for it. One last thing. Okay, I definitely recommended having in my kit that I always used to carry with me up until this guy was released. Now that this thing has been released, there really isn't as much of a need for this anymore, but this is a super high-powered antenna. It's the SR789, and it works fantastic for anything in the sub-gigahertz range. Okay, this thing pulls out really far. It's a super long antenna, and it does really good for sending and receiving signals, especially right around the 100 and 300 megahertz range. Everything else is still pretty good too, but it's like super high from 95 to 300. So if you need to use anything in those lower ranges, this is definitely your antenna. One last thing. Okay, this is actually probably one of my most used devices, peripherals, especially when I go to flea markets and garage sales and the sobre ruedas. I always like to bring one of these things with me because this is what's called a Wii chuck. Okay, and there is a program on the Flipper Zero that allows you to test. Where'd it go? That allows you to test Nintendo Wii peripherals. The Wii EC Analyzer. And when you plug it in, it looks a little something like this. So once I got it all plugged in here and I have it put into the correct GPIO ports, and then plug this bad boy into the end of my Wii peripheral, you can see here on the screen that moving this around detects, you know, the status of the buttons, how well this works, if the motion sensor inside works, the whole 9 yards. It's really great. See, it gives you all kinds of statistics and things that are going on with this. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and definitely one of my most used tools when I'm out bargain hunting for Nintendo peripherals, especially the Wii. So yeah, that about does it. If you guys have any questions or comments, or you know, if I was wrong about anything, or if you just want to know where to get this stuff, or any other questions I didn't mention, I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Yeah, I hope this helps somebody, and you know, happy flipping.